Oh, what a mess. President Biden's agenda, the Democratic Party, American politics in general, but the Biden agenda is imploding. What does it mean? What does it mean for Dems, Republicans, and all of us? It's Rob Nelson Live.
Hey, I'm Rob Nelson. I used to host a show on Fox, and now I do a digital live stream called That Rob Nelson Live. And my whole mission is to figure out how in this time of division we can find common ground.
Speech, and they're not allowed to do that anymore.
I understand what you're talking about.
They be focused on rebuilding California.
Oh, it's so true. Come on. This is where this gets real. He says your headings, I wouldn't want to be black and driving in a car. Right. Point there, right? Some of what's in this music, you can't sanitize it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's interesting. And I talked a little in my last show about Biden's presidency agenda, and I'm going to talk a little more about it because I think, look, the president runs the show, right? So what the president pushes out theoretically becomes the agenda of the country, whether you pass it, whether you don't pass it. I mean, that's why we put so much focus on presidents, right? I mean, that's why there was so much negative focus and positive, but a lot of negative focus on Trump because people felt like his agenda was. A lot of people felt it was bad. Other people felt it was good, right? And underneath that agenda becomes a whole lot of politicking, right? Because if one side doesn't like you or your agenda, they're going to try to attack you and take you down just whatever way they can just to imperil your agenda. But Biden came into office, again, I'm going to try not to pick on him too much, but I'm going to pick on him at the same time. I mean, I said from the beginning, I thought he was a weak leader. I thought he was a scarecrow presidency. He ran from the basement. He did. He literally campaigned avoiding as much interaction with the press, with the media. COVID allowed that to happen. I get it. People wanted to get rid of Trump. As I've said before, they would have taken a scarecrow. But now you got Biden, who, again, I said before, I voted for Bernie, when he was still in the race. Bernie, I think had a vision and agenda. I never felt Biden did. So they kind of crafted an agenda around Biden, and it was kind of built on a couple things. One was COVID. We're going to recover from COVID. We're going to get through COVID. We're going to rebuild the economy. And that's sort of item number one. Get us out of the pandemic. And of course, they were quick to kind of, dismiss anything that happened before them with developing the vaccines and Trump and all that. Fair enough. That's politics. Clean slate. We're doing it. So that was piece one, get out of the pandemic. Piece two was what they decided to call Build Back Better. So basically, a series of massive spending programs. And I'm not saying that inherently bad. I think you can spend money, but I mean, that is essentially what they were. Massive social programs, everything from rebuilding infrastructure, dealing with climate change, offsetting economic inequalities, more childcare, pre-K education for everyone, community college for everyone, educational initiatives, a whole lot of social agenda initiatives, which would have a price tag. But it was sort of modeled in the kind of never since Franklin Roosevelt. Those of you who know Franklin Roosevelt, back in the 30s, the New Deal, was the sort of the most progressive and deep social spending legislation in American history. Biden was going to do one up on that. And the third thing was he was going to be a reset. It was going to be a reset to Trump. Trump, who for so many had created such a dysfunctional presidency and a presidency clearly like Trump or not. Trump was a disruptor. And there was a sense of Biden's going to be the normalizer. He's going to do things in a normal, calm, rational way, which is going to include he's going to be very transparent. He's going to be a clear, decisive leader. He's not going to be petty. He's going to rebuild our relationships with our allies. He's going to make America stronger in the world, along with rebuilding the economy. That was the big picture for Biden. That whole thing is going down the sinkhole fast. And I mean, very, very, very fast. And I'm going to tackle this in three parts. I'm going to start with Afghanistan, and then I'm going to move to the economy, and then finally to COVID. So, because Afghanistan was the most latest, although the economy is the one that's got us right now most in the headlights. So on Afghanistan, rebuild our position with foreign countries and show real transparency. Well, man, what the heck went wrong? I don't care how much you want to spin. This withdrawal was a chaotic mess. And pretty much everyone's admitted except Biden, who for some reason keeps insisting it went just as planned. Other than that the Taliban took over a little quicker than we thought, this was to be expected, the chaos, the mess, and we did a great job. We got us out. And he insisted it was his decision to do it, though he still blamed Trump for putting him in the position, which they never quite got. Like, yes, Trump made a deal with the Taliban, said we were leaving. Biden could have said we're not. He said we are, and he set his own deadline to leave. There's a problem when politicians set deadlines on things like withdrawals. You inevitably run into chaos. But Biden did it. Biden said it was his call, and the whole thing went south. And I don't need to reiterate how badly it went south. You can argue whether it should have, shouldn't have. I think it's far more nefarious than what people are saying. I think it goes way beyond just incompetence. I don't believe the U.S. military could be so incompetent, to be honest. How do you leave billions of dollars of equipment behind? Like, they have systems to destroy everything. Every single weapon, handgun is accounted for. They have remote systems to destroy things. How you just do that? Rebuild our relationship. Macron would like a word. Yes, open systems. I'm going to get to that. Rebuild. Yeah, I'll get to the relationships in a second. I want to start with the transparency and the truth. Biden promised truth. He promised transparency. I've seen little of either, and I don't care your politics. I've criticized the media, and I will continue to criticize the media on both sides for their partisan coverage. I felt that Fox's partisan coverage of Trump rarely allowed for them to be critical, and now they can only be critical of Biden. But CNN, MSNBC, most of the broadcast media, the mainstream, the bulk of the broadcast mainstream media, and the bulk of the broadcast, the mainstream print media, were ruthless on Trump and have given Biden, with few exceptions, pass after pass after pass, kind of watering down what he did, glossing over it, looking past it. And Afghanistan's the latest one. They were never that critical of him for the withdrawal to start with, but now the Congress, called up the top generals and top defense, the Secretary of Defense and General Miley, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and other generals, and said, "You guys, what happened?" And the generals were like, "It was a disaster." I mean, they said it was a logistical success, meaning we effectively did what we had to do in a short window, but it was a strategic disaster, and essentially, basically said everything from, we are going to have a hotbed of terrorism in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, they're coming back. There's not much we can do. Over the horizon, forget it. They're going to seep into that space, and we're going to have to deal with that. We may have to go back into Afghanistan, they're saying. And they acknowledge it was a complete and total, utter strategic mistake, and that they recommended not to pull all the troops out before we had everybody out, to leave 2,500 troops there. This is where the truth part comes in. Biden insisted that wasn't the case. Biden insisted that the generals told him this was the right thing to do, which, by the way, shouldn't matter. The generals tell you it's still your call, but nonetheless, he's insisted publicly. My issue here is Biden keeps lying. Biden keeps saying one thing, doing another. We're going to get every American out. We didn't. We had no choice but to leave when we left. We did. This would have happened no matter what. Wouldn't have. Everyone said this is what we should do. My generals told me. They didn't. He keeps lying. I don't like that. The whole issue with Trump was Trump lied all the time. Lie. Biden's sounding like Trump light. He lies, just not as well. He lies, just not as effectively. He gets just as defensive, but it seems even worse. And his lies are so transparent. Trump was like a complicated liar. He'd spin. He was like a magician with lies. I lied about so many things I can't even keep track. Biden lies a lot. I'm going to show you a clip, just for those of you who are on the fence about what happened with Afghanistan, because Biden insisted that everyone said what he did was the right move. So take a listen to this, strung together clips of Biden saying what he said, of the generals now testifying, and then of Biden before the generals defend on ABC saying what the generals told him, which is contradicting what the generals now say they told him. So take a look at this clip. We'll talk about it after.
I made a decision to end this war. As part of that decision, we set the date of August 31st for American troops to withdraw.
I recommended that we maintain 2,500 troops in Afghanistan.
General Milley, I assume you agree with that in terms of the recommendation of 2,500?
I do agree with that.
But your top military advisors warned against withdrawing on this timeline. They wanted you to keep about 2,500 troops.
No, they didn't. It was split. That wasn't true.
And if we had kept 2,500 troops there, we would have increased the number of troops, we would have been at war with the Taliban, we would have had more U.S. casualties. That was a reality everybody was clear-eyed about. There are some, as is evidenced by people testifying today, who felt we should have still done that. That is not the decision the president made. It's up to the commander-in-chief to make those decisions.
Okay, couple quick things. I agree. It's up to the commander-in-chief to make those decisions. Then own your decisions. Stop blaming everybody. Biden's the master of blame. Again, Trump light. Nothing's his. It's the buck stops with him, but it's everyone else's fault. The Afghan government caved in and the soldiers didn't, the Afghan army didn't fight. By the way, FYI, do your homework on this. They didn't fight partly because morale was so low, but we stopped giving them air cover, right? Pakistan was still giving air cover to the Taliban. We stopped giving them air cover. We made them feel completely vulnerable. And there were 100 other issues under that. But nonetheless, blames everybody else. And then there's that defiance. They didn't say that to George Stephanopoulos. They did not. That's not true. But then you hear today, the generals testifying, head of CENTCOM, McKenzie, General Miley, Joint Chiefs of Staff saying, we did say keep 2,500 troops. Of course they did. Every single one of them did. They're generals. No, they're not going to advocate that you take all your troops out before you have all your people out. What general, what private would recommend that? What anybody who did any basic 101 military training would be like, yeah, let's get all our troops out before we get all our people and assets out. When our enemy, the one we've been fighting for 20 years, is there on the ground. Oh, that would be brilliant. Strategic thinking, my friend Watson. Of course not. No general recommended that. And they said, of course we didn't. Of course we told them to keep some on the ground. Biden lied. Why doesn't that matter to people? It mattered when Trump lied. It matters when Biden lies. I don't care your politics. This is such BS that when one side does it, we pass it off as it's okay. It's not okay. It wasn't okay for Trump to lie all the time. It's not okay for Biden to keep lying. And it's not okay for the press to keep excusing it and sort of qualifying it and saying, well, he misspoke, or maybe it wasn't that, or the fact checkers who say, well, it depends if you took it in context. There's no context. They told him keep 2,500 troops. He made a decision, his right as commander-in-chief, not to keep 2,500 troops. Then he went on television and lied and said that's what they told him to do, which again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they told you. It was your call anyway. But now they spin it. Had we kept them, we'd be back at war. We'd have more people. We'd have more soldiers, more casualties. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you would have kept 2,500 troops. You would have gotten everybody out in an orderly way, not had a terrorist attack, which brings me back to the drone. Another lie. I mentioned this before. I'll be quick on it. But the drone strike to take out the terrorists, which weren't terrorists, which were civilians. And they lied. Miley called it a righteous strike days later. Biden defended it. I'm sorry. Are they getting their information like 6 weeks after me? Because they knew within hours. Well, in fact, I know from an inside source, they knew within minutes that they'd hit all civilians. But it didn't take them weeks. It didn't take them till the Washington Post pieced it together and the New York Times doing their own forensic work. They knew immediately that they killed a bunch of innocent civilians. And instead of saying we hit the wrong target, we thought we were doing the right thing, we tried to scary time, fog of war kind of mentality, they insisted that they'd hit terrorists. And, the State Department and the spokesperson of the Defense Department John Kirby just wouldn't say. He just kept not saying, well, we don't want to say who they are. It's complete and utter lies. They lie. And we allow it. It's not okay. It's not okay when Trump robbed. It's not okay when Trump lied. I think I said Trump robbed. It's not okay when Trump lied. Not okay when Biden lies. Why are we excusing it? Why is it okay for Biden to just lie? Because I'm starting to wonder when he's telling the truth. To be honest, the more people lie like that, the more you wonder. I get strategic lying. Trump's problem became he lied so much he never knew when he was telling the truth. And I'm starting to wonder that about Biden. Okay, Quickly on foreign affairs. He insisted our relationships with our allies were great. No problem, no problem. The generals came out and said, we've done serious damage to our relationships with our allies. No question. They don't know whether to trust us. They don't know whether they can be, what we're going to do or not do. Biden is more boom, boom, boom than Trump was. And I get it. Biden's had a long history of hating conflict with the military, conflict with generals. He's not a fan of extensive U.S. involvement. Neither am I. I actually agree. I wasn't a fan of us being in Afghanistan for 20 years. But own the responsibility when you're getting out to do it in a way that doesn't cause more damage and essentially invalidate everything you've done for 20 years. Okay, the France thing. Someone had a comment about France. We made a deal to the submarine deal, the Australian sub deal, and France was going to sell them the subs. Now they want our subs. And France was really kind of caught off guard by it and pissed. And a little known item in the press was that, a week and a half ago, France withdrew their ambassador from the U.S. as a statement of how upset they were that the U.S. had essentially gone around them, snaked this big deal for submarines when they were planning on doing it. And they built a whole bunch on it and they felt completely backstabbed. They withdrew their ambassador. I'm sorry, I don't care how bad you think Trump was in terms of foreign affairs. Did we ever have a European ally withdraw their ambassador from the U.S.? No. You know why? Because we've never had it happen in modern times. Maybe it happened in like 1786. France is our oldest ally, oldest one we had. They withdrew their ambassador. That is not, things are fine with our allies. It's not fine. It's not okay. I don't care you want to prop Biden up. Prop him up all you want. We're all paying for it, Again, I'm never saying, you can argue Biden was going to be better than Trump. Bernie would have been different. Bernie, we need leaders. We need leaders, not just replacements for the leader you don't like. I hate that one so much, I'll put anything in. That's what we're getting with Biden. Let's talk economic policy real quick, okay? So this was a big one. And, they banked a lot on this infrastructure plan and this massive social, sort of call it what you want, climate change, social progress, investment in the working class, Medicare, expanding the entitlement net for Medicare, lowering drug prices, prescription drug prices, creating community college for everyone free, kindergarten for whatever it is. I mean, all these things in a big umbrella, trillions of dollars, some of which I think is actually very good, some of which could be done in a decent way. But basically, as I said last week, $5 trillion of spending all piled up on top of each other, no way to pay for it. Of course, Biden says, lying again, it'll cost $0. $0, he said. Well, seriously, MI6? $0 for your $5 trillion? I don't think so. I think it will cost $5 trillion, not zero. And it's a tax-based thing. They're going to tax their way out of it. You can say that's the way to go. You can say it's not. Don't say it's $0. Don't insult my intelligence. That's the thing, Just be honest, transparent about it. But here's the problem now for the Dems, okay? The progressives are finally had enough. They're like, you made a deal with us. Nancy Pelosi, you made a deal. You said we do infrastructure and our big giant package, which, as I said last week, kind of wasn't going to make a lot of sense. Get everyone on board this infrastructure package, get the people who aren't comfortable compromising, and then make them pay for everything they didn't want in a separate bill. We're going to do them together. Not so going to work out so well. But Nancy Pelosi, realizing she's kind of screwed on this, has sort of tried to walk a narrow line, thinking they will not shaft the infrastructure bill just to get their way on this $3.5 trillion. The progressives won't do it. The progressives will hold the line. The progressives will not let it happen. Crafty, can you pop that picture up I have of Nancy Pelosi? Left warns Pelosi and Hill. They'll take Biden infrastructure bill down. They'll take down the bill. Well, the left is serious about this, okay? And I'm not talking Joe Manchin, Christian Sinema, the two senators who said it's in the Senate, this is too much, we won't go for it, so they'll sink it in the Senate. I'm talking the progressives in the House. There's a caucus of 100 progressives. At least 50 of them are saying, we won't vote. We will not vote for the infrastructure bill that we all committed to if you don't also do the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill at the same time. And Nancy Pelosi's calling their bluff. She's like, they won't do it. They won't tank the infrastructure bill we all worked so hard to get and all agree on. It's an actual accomplishment we can claim as Democrats. Oh, yeah, they will. Oh, yeah, they will. Rep. Amelia Joyapal said, no, this is not a wish list. This is Biden's agenda. We are sticking by it. Rashida Tlaib said, this is a betrayal. We will vote it down. They aren't kidding. Nancy Pelosi's wrong. They are going to call her bluff, and they are going to vote down that infrastructure bill that everyone worked so hard. They're going to put a knife through it. Kaboom! Denise Terry, I'm actually being part of an independent news network. We're getting off the ground called Roundtable. I'll tell you guys more about it in the next couple of weeks. Yes, we need an independent news network. Independent news network in an interesting way. Not left, not right, but all sides, right? That's what I wish we had. In the current media, we don't. That's why I'm part of something that's going to do it. Bringing all sides to the table. Don't pretend you don't have biases. Just bring all sides. Let us have a conversation with all voices, all sides, equally represented, empowered, uncensored, not, cutting certain ones out, I hear Kamala Harris the other day when the student was talking about how Israel was committing genocide, and she goes, you have a right to have that point. We shouldn't be censoring anybody, because clearly Kamala Harris is going, okay, this is like, it's going to look bad for me with the Jewish vote if I'm like going, yeah, I'm supporting a kid who's saying Israel commits genocide. But she's like, you have a right to that viewpoint. Our society wins when we don't censor any viewpoints, when we let everyone talk. She goes on and on to the girl in the classroom about it. And I'm thinking, are people literally delusional? Are we reached a point where people don't realize they say one thing and are doing exactly the other when it's a different scenario? Does Kamala Harris not realize that we have literally created the opposite of an environment where we encourage the other side to have a voice no matter how weird, out there, extreme it is? She said to the girl, doesn't matter, your view, whatever it is, have to have the views no matter how hard they are to hear. No, when it comes to the other stuff, we call it misinformation. Check it off the box. Can't talk about it. It can't be said. Canceled, silenced, censored, misinformation. Take it down. We won't let you. Like, whether it's COVID, COVID's a great one as an example. But, in general, like cancel culture is all about not letting everyone have a voice. Why? Why don't we let people have a voice? Back to the economic stuff, and I'll wrap up on the economic stuff. We'll go to COVID. But so here's the problem. The infrastructure bill is going to tank because there's the House, they have a margin of a handful of votes that Democrats over Republicans. They'll get some Republican votes for the infrastructure bill because a lot of Republicans want it too. But they're going to lose 50 progressives. They will not pass that bill. Nancy Pelosi's never brought a bill up she can't pass. She's a master. She's a master of the House. If Lyndon Johnson was the master of the Senate, Nancy Pelosi might be the master. Can't use that word probably anymore. Of the House. I know. I'll let that sink in for a second, how stupid that is that you can't use that word, as if that only application that ever had is to slavery. It's so ridiculous. But master has to go away. Not one of my favorite words anyway. So, however, you can't call Bruce Wayne Master Bruce anymore. So she's a pro. She never brings something up that's going to fail. Is she going to bring this up and let it tank? I don't know. We'll see. Keep watching. I don't think she will, but it's going to tank if she brings it up, which would mean the infrastructure bill goes down. The reconciliation bill, the $3.5 trillion, goes down because they can't forget about the House. Manchin and Sinema won't go for it. They're going to push that number way, way down if they support it, right? And meanwhile, Senator McConnell has said, we won't help you raise a debt ceiling. We're not going to help you create space to spend what we don't have more. So essentially, the U.S. economy literally could go into default. That's not a crazy thing. It's completely possible that the U.S. economy hits a massive default on our debt, and who knows what happens. And I'm sure a lot of Republicans are just going, let it happen. This will all be on Biden. Bottom line, guys, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The way things are going right now, and Biden's not a good leader. He's not effective. He's not good. I'm sorry. He's just not. Show me leadership. I don't see it. He can't even bring his own team on. He can't even bring Democrats together on this stuff. People go, Republicans are blocking the way. Democrats control both houses of Congress and the White House. You don't need a single Republican to do anything. Period. You have the votes to do what you want. If you want to do it. They can't hold their own forces together. Biden's not a good leader. And the price of that is going to be, the price you get for electing Biden is you're going to see Republicans take back control of the House and maybe the Senate in 2024. And if you were progressive If you were a left-leaning progressive, you're seeing what happened when you made the bet on going with a centrist guy who was going to somehow cover your base, which is why you see the progressives going, no. You guys promised us this. We're not willing to take a hit on this one once again. You promised us and then you move it away. We're going to bring it down if you don't give us what you promised. They can't give you what they promised. Sorry. You want progressive leadership? Elect progressives. You wanted a progressive in office? You should have elected Bernie. You should have pushed Bernie through instead of letting the DNC cut his knees off. And then Bernie kind of backed out on his own, thinking, I don't have as good a chance as Biden. You got to get rid of Trump. Always a bad idea. Going with the lesser of two evils. Go with the best choice. Best choice wins all the time. All right, going to wrap this up real quickly on COVID stuff. COVID's crazy. We're going to do more on COVID. I've been talking to a lot of COVID doctors, both sides of the sort of more traditional view, the very pro-vax view, the more pro-early treatment, the more questions about the vax. I'm going to keep doing those conversations. I'm going to start doing some of them on here as well. And it's fascinating to see how much, how politicized we've made this whole thing and how scary a situation we are heading into. I will just say as a sidebar, I talked to a doctor, a well-respected, he's a pulmonary intensive care, but he runs intensive care, pulmonary, COVID's in pulmonary disease. So pulmonary intensive care, you'd be the key people. Ran a big ICU at a major U.S. teaching hospital. I'm not going to say which because this guy doesn't want to be identified for who he is, but a major prominent universities with a hospital, and runs 2 ICUs in a major liberal U.S. city. And his view was that he believes every young person, healthy person should get COVID. It's the best thing we could do. Get COVID, get natural immunity, we'll actually be fine. He's like, young, healthy people aren't going to die of this. He's like, and vaccinated people, you're going to get, people keep talking about, why am I getting it? He's like, you're going to get it. Everybody's going to get it. Delta's going to break through other variants. He's like, they're not being honest about, and he's for vaccinating, but vaccinate key parts of the population. It seems rational and logical. I said, will you come on and say that? He's like, I'll lose all my jobs. I literally will lose all my contracts. I'll lose my ICUs if I come out and say that. If I come out and say healthy people should just get COVID, it's like getting a cold, you'll be fine. And you're getting a shot that isn't going to actually protect you from the variants, but that's okay because you won't die. His point was you'll get it like a cold. You won't die. And that's okay. Can't come out and say it. But here's what I do know. We are heading into scary territory with vaccine mandates, ordering people to get it. I know it's hyper politicized. You saw LeBron James come out and say, I got it, but it took me time. I have my doubts and everyone should have their own choice. You're seeing more and more people say we should have a choice and it's hyper politicized. No, the Biden view is no choice, no choice. You take it. Everybody takes it. Let's start vaccinating kids. Let's mask everybody up. We've lost any sense of having a reasonable, rational debate on this, and it's frightening and it's scary because what we most need is a reasonable, rational debate with full clarity, transparency, and multiple sides coming to the table. Not your deemed misinformation if you say masks don't work. Masks may work, masks may not work. I don't know. I see Kamala Harris. I see all these politicians indoors, masks on, they're vaccinated. What are they doing? And then I go look and see every football game in America. You see thousands of people. No one has masks on. Which is it, guys? Which is it? And are you wearing the mask when you're not at it? Like the mayor of San Francisco who went out partying and was like, no, I wasn't thinking about it. I was partying like everybody else. She took her mask off. Right. So we need a real conversation. But I will say this. Forcing people to get vaccinations is not a good strategy. It's not a good health policy, and it's really not a good social policy. I'm telling you guys, we're going to pay for that. We are giving up a freedom. You don't want vaccination mandates. It's a slippery slope, and I'm not being crazy. X86 BSD, he's not the president. I'm going to challenge you on that a little bit. I don't think Biden is not mentally in control. It's complex when you're the president. And I think Biden is he's not the smartest guy, and he's a very argumentative and stubborn guy. And he clearly, in some ways that's an easier person to control because I don't think he welcomes a lot of diverse opinions. I don't think he welcomes a lot of criticism. You can see he doesn't, right? I don't think he's literally a puppet on a string with somebody pulling those strings. I think he's making decisions. I believe he made the decision to pull us out when he did and remove all the troops because the generals weren't for it. He is making decisions. He's just making really bad ones. And I think vaccination mandates, whatever your view about the safety, the efficacy of vaccines, I have a vaccine. If you think vaccines are good, if you think everybody should get vaccinated, I don't. I think certain populations shouldn't. I think we should provide those vaccinations for other countries, for high vulnerable populations, older, immunocompromised, where instead of just getting 3 for everybody here. But whatever your view on vaccinations, mandating, ordering everyone to do it is a very, very, very bad, slippery slope. I'm Rob Nelson. Thanks for watching.